Hey everybody, I'm Logan Alec. I'm a CPA on Choice Tax Relief, and today I'm going over the IRS Notice CP11. I'm going to go over it part by part and tell you what to do if you got this notice. But first, let's just talk about what this notice is and why the IRS sends it. The CP11 is a notice, and you can tell it's a CP11 because it says right here, CP11. The CP11 is notice the IRS sends to a taxpayer to inform them that the IRS has discovered a math error on the taxpayer's tax return, and now the taxpayer owes the IRS money. Okay, so if you receive this notice, it's because the IRS found maybe something wrong with the expenses you claimed on the returns, or maybe the dependents you indicated on the return, the income you reported, or just other math errors that maybe your tax software made. It happens from time to time. So this can also be an issue if you were expecting a refund and you were counting on that refund that you saw in your return when you first filed your return, and then you get the CP11. Well, that doesn't just mean your refund is going to be delayed. It actually means that now you owe the IRS money. Okay, which isn't a fun place to be in. But anyway, folks, let's go through the CP11 part by part here, and we can just get to it, and then I'll tell you what to do if you get this notice. Okay, so first, at the top, it'll tell you where the math error was made for this particular client who came to us because they got this notice. It was pertaining to their self-employment tax. Oh, what did I do to the self-employment tax deduction? Okay. Oh my gosh, what's going on? And here's the thing about math errors, okay? With math errors, the IRS doesn't have to send you a notice of deficiency, okay? It can just change the amount you owe because it's so obviously a math error and not some, we're disallowing this expense or something like that. It just appears that a mistake was made on the return, and, as a result, you owe some money, okay? Here's the billing summary here, right? It's basically showing the updated tax due with penalties and interest. In this case, this individual owes almost $75,000. They put a due date here. Now, let me tell you, folks, this due date, they make it sound like super scary and everything because they want you to pay by that date. But the reality is, you have a little bit more time here, folks. Okay, it's not like you're gonna find IRS agents knocking at your door if you don't pay by April 1st. You want to figure out what to do with this balance ASAP. Maybe you can't pay it, and maybe you got to hire us, tax attorneys, CPAs, EAs, like we have at Choice Tax Relief, to fight the IRS for you on this, or at least give you more time to pay. But don't be too scared about this if you have the right representative in your corner. Under why we change your information, they tell you why they change your your information. In this case, it looks like when the taxpayer filed their own return, they made a mistake in computing the self-employment tax deduction. Oh, well, there it is. They Schedule SC was incomplete or not attached to their return. I would say in the majority of cases, maybe I'll talk about this later. In the majority of cases, when you get a CP11, the IRS is correct. However, that's not 100% of the time, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. How to resolve this issue? So, it basically says review this notice, compare changes to the information on your tax return. And yeah, that's basically what you need to do. You need to look at your tax. You need to understand what the IRS says you did or didn't do. Right? You didn't compute self-employment tax deduction correctly, and the schedule is not attached to your return. Go back to your original filed tax return. Hopefully, you saved a copy of it, and make sure that what the IRS is saying is true. Okay. If it's not, and they give you a time period here to contest it, right? And obviously, if you agree, then you should, pay them or enter in some kind of a resolution, right? It tells you how to pay here. It gives you more information how to pay here. It talks about like resolution programs, like offering compromise, and it talks about CNC status. It doesn't say it here. It calls it financial hardship. But, these are things that you could hire a representative to help you with if you qualify, right? You can't pay. I can't afford to pay this. What do I do? Okay, call Choice Tax Relief. All right, but what if you don't agree with you owe what the IRS says you owe, right? Then you can call them up and try to discuss it with them. Below here, it's gonna show the taxpayer's calculations versus the IRS's calculations. As a matter of fact, it looks like the The IRS's adjustment was more favorable to the taxpayer than their original return, which is quite interesting. I guess they didn't include the deduction for half of self-employment tax at all. Then it shows you, the penalties and how they calculate the penalties. There's estimated tax penalties and the interest by quarter. If you're really into math, you can kind of make sure their numbers are right there. Then they have this IRS help section, right? This is pretty standard on most notices these days. It talks about the taxpayer advocate service, talks about low-income taxpayer clinics, yada, yada, yada. And then look, if you agree with what the IRS says, and I owe and I want to pay some money now, you can use this payment coupon to do that. Send it along with a check or money order payable to the United States Treasury. Be sure to write your Social Security number, tax year, and form number in the memo line of the check. Okay, so that's the CP11. What should you do if you get this notice? Well, like I said, first of all, make sure that what the IRS is saying is right, that you actually did make that mistake that the IRS is claiming you made. And, I don't know if you have access to this in retail tax software, but what we would do, when a client comes to us with this notice, well, in this case, I don't think we did with this because the IRS was actually giving them more deductions than they claimed, but sometimes it's the other way around, right? Where the client claimed something, the IRS claimed, there's a math error and they owe more now, right? So in that case, we would, verify the original return, make sure what the IRS is saying is true about the mistake they made. And then we would actually run an updated return through our own tax software to make sure the IRS is doing its math right on the recalculated return. Okay, so that's just saying what we would do. That might sound overkill to you. I don't know if your retail software will let you do it, but it's worth a try. And obviously if the IRS is wrong, then we bring it up to them, right? We usually, let me show you here on the screen. Yeah. Where's the phone number? Right. We'll usually call this number, or sometimes we have a direct line to another number where we discuss the issue with the IRS. And sometimes they're like, oh, okay, that makes sense. Sometimes it's got to, fax some other documents and stuff. But if we do think the IRS made a mistake itself, we will contest it. But assuming the IRS didn't make a mistake, and frankly, it doesn't usually make mistakes with the CP11s, although sometimes it does, then, well, you got to figure out what you're going to do with the amount you owe the IRS, right? And now we're just back to your basic tax resolution options: penalty abatement, offer and compromise, installment agreement, currently non-collectible status, all the things I talk about day in and day out right here on this channel. And folks, those are things we can help you with. Okay, I'm not going into detail about every one of those tax relief programs here because I made other videos about them, like the ones on the left-hand side of the screen. But folks, if you owe the IRS or your state at least $10,000 in back taxes, hey, you qualify for a free consultation with us here at Choice Tax Relief. Give us a call at 866-8000-TAX. That's 866-8000-829. Or go to choicetaxrelief.com, fill out the form on the website. We will reach out to you. Thanks so much for watching, everybody. See you in the next video. Bye-bye.